Hi, welcome, and welcome back. I guess there must be a question you guys have wondered about at least a few times in your life. I'll break it down as an example for better comprehension. Let's say, two people, same broken starting point, same absence of the things most of us take for granted, safety, stability, someone in your corner. One of them grows up and becomes the kind of person you'd want in your life. Patient, generous, the type who gives without keeping score. The other one becomes something the opposite of that. And I mean that in the most serious way possible. Same kind of beginning, completely different endings. So which one is the real answer to who we are? The hand we were dealt, or what we did with it? You've heard about Ryan before. If this is your first time here, Ryan is someone we've been following across a few episodes now. Someone who's been learning, the hard way, how people actually work. But tonight's story isn't about Ryan. It's about his closest friend. Ryan's friend grew up in a house where nothing was stable. His father was absent in the ways that matter most. His mother, worn down by her own damage, swung between coldness and eruption with very little in between. There was a night, he told Ryan once, where his mother threw something at him in the kitchen. Not out of nowhere, she'd been pushed past a limit Ryan still doesn't fully understand. But the point is, that was just a normal day for him. The environment around him wasn't just difficult, it was the kind of environment that statistically produces certain outcomes. You look at the data on adverse childhood experiences, what researchers call ACEs, and the numbers are not kind. Higher rates of addiction, mental illness, violence, broken relationships. The research is consistent and it's heavy. And yet, he didn't become the statistic, not because his life got easier. It didn't. He moved cities, started over with almost nothing, worked jobs that paid just enough to survive, dealt with people who looked at where he was from and decided that told them everything they needed to know about him. And through all of it, through every version of the world telling him what he was supposed to become, he stayed himself. He sent money home to the people who hadn't sent any to him. He looked after siblings who had been treated better than he ever was. He didn't ask for credit. He didn't keep score. Ryan never fully understood it. He still doesn't. But he noticed one thing. At some point, very early, his friend had decided, quietly, without making a speech about it, who he wanted to be. Not who his environment made him, who he chose to be. And of course, another story for another perspective. Dennis Rader grew up in what most people would describe as a normal household, stable family, no record of abuse, religious upbringing. By the external metrics we use to predict outcomes, he had every advantage that Ryan's friend didn't. He became BTK. One of the most methodical serial killers in American criminal history. He planned his crimes with precision, lived a double life for decades, and showed, when he was finally caught, very little of what most people would recognize as remorse. Researchers have spent years trying to explain Dennis Rader. The environment doesn't do it. The childhood doesn't do it. There are theories about biological predisposition, about something in the wiring that existed before the world had a chance to shape it, which raises the uncomfortable question that all of this has been building toward. If a difficult environment doesn't guarantee a difficult person, and a stable environment doesn't guarantee a good one, then what exactly are we working with here? The answer from science is both, and neither completely. The nature side of this, the biological genetic argument, is real. Twin studies have shown for decades that identical twins raised in completely different environments still share remarkable similarities in personality, temperament, even specific tendencies and preferences. Something is being carried in the biology that environment alone doesn't explain. But the nurture side is also real, and it got more complicated recently. A field called epigenetics has shown that environment can actually change how genes express themselves. Not the genes themselves, but whether certain ones get switched on or off. Trauma, chronic stress, the quality of early attachment. These things leave biological marks. The environment doesn't just shape behavior, it shapes the biology that shapes behavior. So the clean debate, nature or nurture, was always a false choice. The more honest picture is messier. You arrive with certain tendencies, certain capacities, certain vulnerabilities. And then the world gets its hands on you. What matters, what the story of Ryan's friend keeps coming back to, is the third variable. The one the research is only recently starting to take seriously. There's a concept in psychology called agency, the degree to which a person experiences themselves as the author of their own life rather than a product of it. It's not about ignoring what happened to you. Ryan's friend never pretended his childhood was fine. He carried it, and he still carries it. But somewhere along the way, he stopped letting it be the last word on who he was going to be. Psychologists who study resilience, the specific kind of resilience that shows up in people who shouldn't statistically be okay, keep finding the same thing. It's not the absence of hardship that produces these people. It's the presence of one specific belief that the next choice is still mine. Not every choice, not a clean slate, not pretending the environment didn't leave marks. Just the next one. And then the one after that. Ryan's friend didn't read about this in a book. He didn't go to therapy and unpack his ACE score. He just kept making the next choice over and over in the direction of who he wanted to be. And that, more than biology and more than environment, is what Ryan has been quietly studying all these years. But here's what this isn't. It isn't an argument that environment doesn't matter. It does. The research is clear, and anyone who's lived through a difficult one doesn't need a study to confirm it. And it isn't an argument that people who struggle are just not trying hard enough. That's not what agency means. The deck is not equally stacked. Some people start in holes that take decades to climb out of, and some of them never get the foothold they need. That's real. But here's what it also is. The people and things around you. The environment you're in right now, the habits of the people closest to you, the beliefs that got handed to you before you were old enough to question them, those things are inputs. They are not verdicts. Ryan learned something from watching his friend for all those years. Not a technique, just a question worth asking about anyone whose behavior you're considering adopting. Where does this actually lead? Not for them, for you. If you act just like them, what does it cost? The environment will keep offering you inputs. The question is, which ones you let become outputs? Were you born this way, or did the world make you? Probably both, in ways you'll spend a lifetime untangling. But somewhere in that untangling is a third thing, quieter than nature, more deliberate than nurture, the choices you make about what to do with both. Ryan's friend never figured out the science of it. He just kept making the next choice. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that's the whole answer. Where do you stand on this? Are you more of who you were born as, who your environment made you? Or that third thing? Let me know in the comments. Until next time.